This is your fifth and final video. You've pretty much made it now, and thank you for staying with me all along. So we've looked at a variety of things, and now the last area that we want to look at is essentially how do you increase customer loyalty? What do you have to do through the way in which you communicate and market your sustainable experiences to get customers that really stay with you and keep coming back? Now, this is absolutely essential to reduce seasonality, and I'll show you how. Customer loyalty is probably one of the areas that helps with seasonality the most. What I mean by this is that customers tend to naturally come once per year or not much more than that. And they tend to, if they come a certain time of year, there is a habit of trying to come back at the same time of year. You remember that that area looked really beautiful in spring, and then you keep coming back and you keep doing similar things, each time. And the challenge that you've got as a business is making sure those customers come back more often. So how to increase that loyalty, essentially, as far as we're concerned now, is divided under 4 different areas of advice that I think you could find quite helpful. So let's start from the beginning. First of all, if you want customers to be loyal, you need to make them aware of the many things that you're doing to be sustainable. And you're not going to use the S word again. Remember, that's very unpleasant. It's a bit like pushing it down people's throats. Instead, let's find a way of communicating sustainable practices in a way that customers really enjoy them. This bench that you can see here is made out of plastic. And it's not at the very beginning of the walk. It's a couple of kilometers into the walk. And the reason why it's there is because it gives people the opportunity to enjoy a view. Now, when you sit down, there is a small green sign that you can probably see from here on the back of the bench itself. And what that sign essentially says is, well done. The first 3,000 bottles that were recycled in the car park for this walk have been used to make this bottle so you can enjoy this view. Now, the message is subtle. It's not saying what you should do. It's rewarding you for something you even haven't done yet. Right? It's telling you, well done, guys. Those of you that have recycled bottles have given you this reward. You can enjoy the view. We know that by doing this is a much more persuasive way of getting people to actually do something that you want them to do. Pointing fingers saying you are the nasty person that doesn't recycle never, ever works. Instead, giving me a message that says, I'm rewarding you for something good really works much, much better. Also, try to weatherproof your offer. Look at ways in which you can decide what will be the activities that we can do in my location when it's cold, when it rains, when it's dark, when it's muddy, but also when it's too hot and when there are midges. It all depends really on what your seasonality is all about. So if you're watching this video and you're in Norway, or whether you are in the north of Scotland, midges are going to be an issue for you. If you're watching this video and you're in Indonesia, you're going to say, oh, being too hot or being the rainy season for the monsoon is important to me. And if you happen to be in England or in France, you'll probably be focusing on the winter season and how do we make sure that people come back when it's cold and rains, it's dark. Okay. The challenge here is you need to think yourself of what are the activities that you can do that at the moment you're not offering yet. Too many of your photos, too many of the things that you normally say on your website are targeting summer. And you need to turn it around. Make this winter first. Make sure you design products that are specifically prepared for the time of year when you don't normally have customers. Because in summer, the customers come anyway. Okay, so make a list of things that you could do in and around your property on a rainy day, for example. And if you're thinking, I'm really struggling to come up with things, well then don't expect customers to come and book at your property, because customers will find it even harder. They don't know your area. Okay, so you need those ready-made lists of what to do when it's cold, what to do when it rains. And if you really get creative, you'll find quite a few things that can be done just as well, if not better, when it's low season. Linked to that, put together a calendar. Start advertising those things in your website. Your calendar can say, what different birds, different flowers, events, festivals, seasonal foods, what the garden will look like, any one of those things, and what's the best at each month. We can use wildlife calendars already made for you. The one I'm showing you here comes from the Yorkshire Wildlife Triangle, Yorkshire being in the north of England. Or you could create your own. And what you need to make sure is that your photos reinforce the idea of your calendar, and that your photos show that at any one given time of year, there are interesting things to do in your area. Look, let me just finish with an example from an anecdote that I came across in one of the training courses that I delivered. And this is about giving people reasons to return. And this is an example from a lady called Mary that runs a rural farm, and essentially she runs self-catering property. Okay, and so customers come back to stay in the cottages that she rents. And Mary said to me at some point, Xavier, you deliver all these training courses, but you make it sound complicated. I'm old now. I'm not going to learn how to use a computer. There's no mobile phone reception where I live because it's too remote. So if customers want to come and stay with me, they need to phone me in the evening when I'm basically not working the farm and I'm inside the house again. And then we thought, okay, let's do something different. Why don't we get the customers we like, not everybody, essentially customers that we really want them to repeat, to do something unique. So it links to some of the things we've talked about earlier in our sessions. So Mary started helping customers to press flowers. And if you've ever pressed flowers, you know it's not a quick thing to do. Okay, you need to press them, you need to leave them there for quite some time. So Mary would say to some of those customers, okay, I've got this flower press, let's just press them together, and I'm going to save these flowers for you here in my flower press. And she would then say to those children, look, here's a postcard, blank at the moment. Draw something for me. You know, draw the farm or draw something about the views or draw whatever you want it to be. So some of them would draw a sheep or the farm itself or, you know, I don't know, whatever it was. And then she would give them an envelope and say to the children, write down your home address. The week before Christmas, Mary gets the flowers your children pressed and she sticks them on the postcard your children drew and puts it inside the envelope with your own children's handwriting and basically says to you, this is my Christmas card to you. Merry Christmas, and just as a memory of the holiday that you had with us. Now, I spoke with Mary and I said, Mary, do you get bookings earlier in the season and for larger groups? And she said, how do you know? Essentially, at Christmas, on the mantelpiece at home, the Christmas card that really looks most unusual is the one that your own children produced. And they produced it a few months ago, so there's now a nostalgic element of saying, we remember what summer looked like, for example. And the fact that at Christmas guests will come to your house means that people will talk about it. So people get their calendars out and they think, when shall we go? Oh, let's go in March, let's go in April. People at Christmas, they don't book for July or August. They book for earlier in the season. So the beauty here was that Mary didn't have to do a big marketing campaign. Mary didn't have to be anybody other than Mary, right? She was really genuine. She was truthful to who she was by doing something she really enjoyed with the customers she really wanted to encourage to repeat. And those customers rewarded her by essentially receiving and embracing this reason to return. You know, this is the most effective marketing campaign you can think of. There's no spam here. It goes directly to your heart, not to your brain. So please provide incentives that are appropriate to the, the kind of customers you want, to bring back. If there are customers you really want them to come back, then you need to give them some of your time to actually create those memories to then make them come back to you. I hope you really enjoyed the 5 sessions that we've had so far. We've talked about how can you use marketing and communication of your sustainability experiences to help customers to reduce the negative impacts that they're already causing. We've talked about some of the challenges, but also opportunities on bringing more customers to your property as a result of this communication. We also, if you remember, we looked at how can you make customers be more satisfied by essentially enhancing the value they can gain from this. And we saw that this can actually increase the customers, repeat visits, but also the chances those customers recommend to others and that more customers come in the first place. We talked about how by providing more activities to do that will usually have little cost to you but massive value to those customers, you can increase customer expenditure, either expenditure by spending more per day, but very often by encouraging customers to spend more days in that particular trip. And we also looked at the way in which by enhancing the range of things that your customers see that they can do at your property, they will no longer just book for 1 or 2 nights, but they will see they can book for more nights because there are so many things to do. Or they'll want to come back again because you'll be able to tell them there are all these different things you could do if you come back at the same time of year or at a different kind of year. So thank you very much for staying with me. I hope you found this of use, and I hope you get to practice it.